Okay, I think we are live here, folks. Thanks for joining us here via Facebook Live, Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame. This is the lighter side of lacrosse session number two. My name is Jake Kelly. For those who don't know me, I'm a play-by-play announcer for Canadian Summer Lacrosse and the National Lacrosse League as well. I got four great guests on our panel here today for the next hour or so conversation, and I'm looking forward to this. Let me run down the resume briefly here of each gentleman that's about to join us. First up, Dan Stroup, coming up on 30 years in the fire department here, close to retirement, just learning this, but a 2016 NLL Hall of Famer, a 2010 NLL Hall of Fame induction, a Mann Cup, 4 NLL championships to go along with it. Dan Stroup joining us here. Dan, how are you? Good to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Hey, Jake. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Next up, let's go down the panel here is Josh Shooter Sanderson, 2016 NLL Hall of Famer, just waiting for his eligibility to be up. He'll be in the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame in no time. 2 Minto Cups, 2 NLL championships, 3 Mann Cups. Could have been close to 4 back in 2001, if I recall, Josh. Very close to 4 Mann Cups, but 3 will have to do. Shooter, thanks for doing this. How are you?
I'm doing good, Jake. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. Let's move along here. Next up is Russ Herbie Hurd, 2016 Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame inductee, 2 NLL titles, over 1,000 points in the Western Lacrosse Association to go along with 3 scoring titles and 2 MVPs. Herbie, good to see you. Thanks for making everybody feel a little more comfortable and wearing your shirt here this afternoon.
Thanks. It's actually, I've gained some pounds. I think I've gained some of the pounds that you lost with COVID, so I had to borrow a shirt out of Chris Gill.
Just throwing a guy under the bus that's not even on the panel. That is off to a great start. I love it. Last but not least, this might take a few minutes here, guys. No, I'm just kidding. 2012 inductee for the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame, 2009 in the Ontario Lacrosse Hall of Fame, 2 Minto Cups as a coach, 3 Mann Cups to go along with that, 2 NLL titles as a player, and a measly 5 more. No, what do we got here, Jammer? 7 more championships as a coach to bring the total up to 9 NLL championships, which is just ridiculous. Derek Jammer Keenan joining us. Jammer, good to see your face. How are things back in Ontario?
Pretty good, Jake. Thanks for being on. Good to see you and all the rest of the guys as well.
Absolutely, it is, and I appreciate everybody that's tuned in here this afternoon. We tried to kind of get this thing going last Sunday, ran into some technical difficulties, but we're off to a flying start here this Sunday, and it probably works out a little better, guys, because I know everybody was kind of had their one eyeball on the football that was happening last weekend. So before maybe we get into some lacrosse talk, we're in the bye week here before the big one, the Super Bowl. Predictions, let's start with you, Dan Stroup. Who's winning the Super Bowl?
Tom Brady again.
Okay. Tom Brady in his 10th Super Bowl, going for number 7, I believe. Derek Keenan, I know you're a big Buffalo Bills guy. It didn't quite work out for you against the Chiefs there, but who are you liking in the big one?
Kansas City, I would say easily, but Mahomes is too good. So I go Kansas City.
Shooter, Raiders guy. I know you've been in a lot of pain for a lot of years, but Raiders are far from the Super Bowl. But who you like to win it?
Well, similar to Jammer, I'm usually saying you can't bet against Brady in these situations, but Mahomes is pretty special right now. So KC's got it.
Okay. Russell?
KC also, they just look too good. I know Tampa Bay's defense is playing pretty well right now, but I just don't see them stopping KC.
Yeah, okay, so that's 3 KCs and a Tom Brady for Dan Stroup. I think I'm with you, Stroopy. I like, you give me a 1-game showdown with Tom Brady involved, and I have a hard time betting against that. So I think it's going to be a fun one. This should be a lot of fun as well. And you know, I think a lot of people will probably know this, but I think there's probably some people on the call here that probably don't know this. So Russ, let's start with you and just let us know how you found the game or how the game found you.
Well, I was born in New West, and we lived pretty close to Queen's Park. So, as you know, it's religious there. So pretty much, my brother Steve, who's close to 6 years older than me, he started playing the game, and then it was just a natural thing for me to join too. But you know, I lived down the street from Paul Purnell and Wayne Goss, and so many greats around there that you know, I think there was probably 3 kids in the history of New West that played baseball. Justin Morneau being one of them. The rest of us played lacrosse.
Dan Stroup, let's stick in the West here. How about you?
I grew up in Burnaby, and I think the only reason I got involved was my brother was playing. So mom and dad put me in with him just to keep me busy. And yeah, that was it. Fell in love with it and kept playing.
And turned out to be a whole lot better than Scott too, right? Like just kind of.
A little bit.
Wow, and I played in Burnaby. They were really good in the 70s, the junior program, and then in the 80s when I played there, not so good.
Oh, yeah, some down years, and hopefully the man down in my bottom right here can revitalize the junior program. Is now the head coach of the Burnaby Junior Lakers, a man whose number 9 hangs in the rafters there at Bill Copeland Sports Center. Derek Keenan, where did you find lacrosse?
Well, I grew up in the Durham region, but kind of out in the country, so there, east of Oshawa, so there wasn't really anything out there. But I was fortunate; I had a cousin, Freddie Greenwood, who played on the '60s Green Gales teams that won all those Minnow Cups under Jim Bishop. So he got me started pretty young. You know, gave me a stick when I was 3 or 4 years old, and I started playing organized when I was 5 or 6, and played all my minor in Oshawa and then junior there. So that's kind of how I got going.
Did Jimmy ever coach you?
Yes, for sure. Yeah. In the 70s, yeah. Junior A, yeah.
And before we get to you, Josh, I find this fascinating. How much of your coaching philosophy or style did you take from Jim Bishop? Like, what are some of the things you took from him?
Quite a bit, I think. I mean, he was awfully intense. So probably the most intense man I've ever been around. But just in terms of preparation, he was impeccable with how he planned practices and things like that. So, and a real student of the game and an innovator as well.
Awesome. And Shooter, I know, obviously Sanderson's synonymous with lacrosse in Orangeville. And I was kind of reading up on your uncle Lindsay a little bit, saying how, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you guys actually from further east in the Maritimes, I want to say Nova Scotia, I think, and kind of made your way to Ontario, and Terry and Lindsay were kind of looking for something to do, and lacrosse is kind of what they found and really kind of put themselves to it and turned out to be just fantastic players. But maybe you can fill us in on that a little bit, and then obviously following in your family's footsteps.
Yeah, well, I got to start with my stick in my hand a lot earlier than them. I believe around intermediate, started playing some junior C in that, and then obviously, got playing with the seniors in Orangeville, and that's what I grew up watching. So that's, me and my cousins playing after the games and just watching all the games. That's how I kind of learned the game, and lucky enough to always have people to play with.
Well, I mean, you think about it, Dusty, tell me if I'm missing anybody here. You got Flip, Dustin, Ryan, yourself, Looney, Nate. Am I missing anybody?
Chris,
of course.
Dustin, and that's, so there was games going on Saturday, backyard ball. Brandon was in charge of putting them together, so
give me this shit. Like who, and you guys all did very well in the game, but maybe like who was the most underrated Sanderson? And then when things got a little haywire in the backyard, like who took care of business?
Flip was the strongest for sure. He could end things in a hurry, especially Brandon was his older brother, but when Flip when Flip wanted to end things, he would. So Flip was the strongest for sure. I know Ryan and Chris are older, but Flip was pretty strong. Ryan was really underrated on his game. I know in junior he did a bit of everything for us and made the transition to pro really good. So Ryan, just as far as D, offense, short man, power play, you could kind of play him everywhere. He was the real deal.
Awesome, man. I'm so jealous of that, having that at like to be able to just kind of like, hey, let's go play a game and having enough guys to throw a full line out there. Pretty awesome stuff. Let's turn directions here and throw a bit of a harder one at you guys. Let's start with you, Derek Keenan. If you could change one thing in the game right now, what would it be and why?
One thing for Canadian lacrosse, especially at the high levels, junior and up, I would change immediately to an NLL rule book. Is a change that I would. I mean, there's some things you might want to modify, but I would do that. I think it's a better game. I think it's a faster game. It's a crisper game. I would do that. Would be the first thing I'd do.
Russ Hurd?
I couldn't agree more with the Jammer. I know the older people that watch this wouldn't agree, but the NLL changes the rules to make it fan friendly, and people want to see goals. And most of the rules are designed so the ball's on the offense more. And I would prefer to see the same rule book for WLA and Junior A.
All right. Can't say rule book, even though I think that's probably the best answer there is to this question. Dan Stroup, one thing that you would change in the game if you could.
Well, I think that's exactly it. It'd be like soccer, like make it international, make it the same rules for everybody in every league, every age group, and but I think the NLL has done a great job by making it so fan friendly, and
yeah.
And it's a lot. It's fun to play too. I mean, we grew up playing a pretty tough indoor game, and
I thrived in that environment, Stroopy. I don't think I could do it in the wide open pro game.
That's why I'm really fast, because I kept running away from you.
Shooter, do you got a suggestion, like a rule? I mean, that drives you a little nuts as a coach that you'd like to see changed or something like that?
Just similar to them as far as keep speeding the game up with the NLL rules, especially junior, the quick starts, getting the ball over quicker. Just things that keep speeding the game up and making it faster and making more people want to be involved.
I mean, and it's so layered, you guys, right? Because when you think about it, like I know for me, from a broadcasting perspective, trying to keep all the rules straight from league to league and game to game, it gets to be a little much. You think about referees that have to do that and all of a sudden change their thinking on a crease rule or whatever the case is, and coaches as well. Like there's certain situations that come up in a game where you can do one thing in one league, but you can't do it in the other, or vice versa. But I think really, guys, probably the most important thing out of all of it is the fans, and especially the new ones that come to watch a game, and they watch a junior A game in Saskatchewan, and then they go watch the Rush play, and it's completely different, and they're confused as all heck because they don't know what's happening. So I think when you think about all that sort of stuff, it comes down to the fans that are the most important to learn and grow with the game and understand it.
For sure.
Anybody on that? Yeah, we're all good on that. Let's do a fun one here, guys. Let's start with you, Shooter. I think a guy like Kurt Belowski, really well known for like the super shallow pocket that he played with, and then there's guys like I think like a Tyson Elias who just had like an absolute fishing net for a pocket. Shooter, give me the dirtiest, the ugliest stick you've ever seen on a guy, and maybe the prettiest one, like a guy that just kept it. I know you were maybe one of those guys, Josh, that just kind of kept his stick pristine as possible.
Yeah, I had a little bit more pocket, but I do remember Mouse and Chris Driscoll with no pocket at all. We used to call them tennis rack, but those stick out to me as just guys that could score a lot of goals and had real good shots with no pocket at all. And then as far as just big, I played with a guy Mike Regan, and he just had a huge pocket in, and I just didn't know how he could shoot it so accurate without it hooking, but he had a huge bag and a huge shot. So that's why I wanted to get mine a little deeper, get some velocity in the shot. But that's who I remember with some weirder sticks.
What about you, Russ?
Mine was always in between, I think. But I do remember a lot of guys, and especially you look at back in the old days and the old wood sticks, and it's amazing to watch some of those guys, what they could do with the ball with the small little pockets. But I remember playing with Brad Henry for many years in Richmond and Burnaby, and he had the big bag in his pocket. Of course, he was a crease guy, so he wasn't shooting from anywhere outside the crease. But yeah, I think most of the guys are kind of in between the big pocket and the little pocket.
Derek, you ever like have a teammate or anything where you picked up a stick and you just like tried to throw with it and it went straight into the ground and up
not a teammate, but a guy I coached named Kyle Rubich. The ugliest stick I've ever seen in my life, and he used it for years to the point where he was actually putting wire on the sidewall of it to keep it together. And honestly, I tried to shoot like from what would be in the summer, the dotted line, like just doing a shoot around with his stick. And the ball literally hit right in front of my right foot and bounced behind me. That's how bad it hooked. And I have no idea how and finally the thing broke enough that he got another stick, and it was a little more normal. His newer stick, I could actually throw with it. He could throw with it no matter what. So that would be the ugliest stick for sure I'd ever seen.
What about when you're back in your day playing with the Woodies? What kind of wooden stick were you whipping around?
Mine was pretty like normal, not really deep, not really shallow, kind of in between. I was pretty particular with my stick, so I didn't like any hook at all. It had to come out really smooth, so I was always messing around with them just so I had no hook at all.
And did you have a brand like a Patterson or a Mohawk, or what'd you like to use?
Usually ATN Martins actually.
Okay.
What we used most of the time out here. Yeah.
Nice.
And the unlucky guy would get a Logan back then, but they were
yeah, very rare, very rare. Yeah. Stroopy, I know you were, like the Tasmanian devil on the crease and liking spinning around in traffic there, and most of your damage came on top of things doing the swoop. But what were you wielding back in your day?
I did have a Logan growing up. Well, we went out to Ontario. We went to one of the reserve there, and we were able to I got a Logan, but I didn't know how to put a shooting string in any of my sticks. I was brutal, and I just found somebody on the team that could string me one up. But I played with Mouse. He had a brutal stick, and Jason Wolder had a.
Yes. Wolder's stick was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But he was he might have been the best stick skills guy I'd ever seen. Like, he would make goalies fall over in practice with some of his baits.
Oh yeah, and you think he's passing you the ball, he's shooting. You never knew what was going on, but yeah, he had a deep pocket. I think was it not Russ? Was it not like the banana stick or something they called it?
I think it was.
The yellow I don't know. I know
that's for years.
Use him all the time, yeah.
And the crazy part is, I think he is the all-time assist leader in ADNAC history. I don't know how he ever passed with that thing.
I know. Yeah, he could shoot, pass, whatever, but it was ugly. Yeah.
I think most people know this, but lacrosse players pretty superstitious type people. As far as, I think we like to call them routines or rituals, not so much superstitions, because then you get a little weird about it. But Derek, were you that kind of guy? Are you still that kind of guy when you're coaching? Like, do you have any specific things that you kind of feel like you need to do pre-game to get the mojo right?
Nothing really crazy, and not much really as a player either. Just, I think as a coach though, if you lose a game or get on a bit of a bad run, you want to change things up a little bit from your regular routine, whether it's, I don't know how you put your socks on or what time you have your lunch or whatever, or do your daily workout or whatever it might be, change things up. But I've never been real crazy on superstition, but certainly some little things, but nothing really that sticks out in my mind that much.
Shooter, are you like all the left pads on first and then the right side, or drive the same way to the arena, listen to the same music? What do you got going on in your head before a game?
As a player, I had a bit of everything for sure. I had to stretch a certain way, put stuff on a certain way. Especially if you're winning and things are going well with the team, you're kind of just riding it out. And then, like Jammer said, when you're losing, you're switching it a bit. But coaching and playing, there's a lot of superstitious stuff to my daily routine. Let's put it that way.
Danny?
Absolutely nothing. I would.
I'm not surprised.
I think one of my routines was show up a little bit late. That was it by accident. But
Come on, Russ. You must have something that you've seen Dan do over the years, time and time again, that you're like, what the heck is that about?
I think Stroopy's superstition was to keep it under 3 beers before a game. But no, just kidding. I don't think he had a lot. I'm the same way as Stroopy. As I didn't have any superstitions. It's just you kind of kept to a routine, but there was nothing that was exact before a game.
You know, it's Stroopy, if I could interrupt, Jacob, when you talk about being late, if you remember, probably all you guys would play with Jimmy Veltman at one point or another. Well, that was his thing. And he was like notoriously late. And I'm not talking like, an hour before the game, like literally 45 minutes before the game, he'd show up. And it would just drive you crazy as a coach, right? But the rest of the guys just like, oh, well, that's just Jimmy. And he showed up to play, so you didn't have to get too concerned about it.
Yeah. Worked out okay. I think, yeah. Eight as a player, Veltman?
Yeah, 8 NLL championships, yeah.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Lighter side of lacrosse here, session number 2. I'm Jake Keller. We're talking with Dan Stroup, Derek Keenan, Josh Sanderson, and Russ Hurd here. Speaking of the lighter side, like, do you have a memory, Dan, that like the funniest thing that you ever saw on a lacrosse floor, either that happened to you or a teammate or an opposing player?
funny. No.
Like I remember, like I'll always remember, and I've told this story a couple of times. My very first, and Derek, you were actually coaching in this game, which ends up to be ties in nicely here. But it was in Portland, 2007. You were with the Rush, I believe, Danny, and you were coaching Portland, Jammer. And a loose ball came over, and I think it was Ray Gouze who just rode you right into the Portland bench, and everybody just kind of like backed away, and you went flying in there like a baseball dugout. So I'll always remember something like that. But
I remember that, but I didn't find that funny. But
see, I wanted you on my team so bad, Stroopy. I had the guys throw you in our bench. That's what I
and then when I finally got back to playing for you, I was too old.
Yeah. Well, we've all gone through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, is there something that sticks out? Like maybe a player's shorts falling off or something like that on the turf, or anything that sticks out to you that made you laugh?
Who's that? Me? Back to me?
Yeah.
Well, I can't even talk about it, but a Jamie Hackle story with the
Say no more. Say no more. So just mention the word Jamie Hackle and we can move on. How about you, Shoop?
Nothing too crazy. More stuff, off the floor with the guys in the room, stuff like that. Are the best stories. But on the floor, I don't remember anything too crazy. More when I'm coaching minor than anything.
Yeah.
This past year, I guess the year before, there's a little skirmish that I thought was absolutely nothing right in front of our bench, and a couple minutes later, one of the kids' mums basically in the skirmish. So just little things like that. Yeah, walked right out on the floor and was kind of yelling at the kids and the ref, and all the coaches looked up. It was like, how the heck did she get out here? And to be honest, like there was no fight or anything. It was just a little bit of pushing and shoving. So stuff like that, I guess, more so I'm coaching minor.
Yeah. Russ, you got a memory or two that sticks out for you?
I think probably the funniest was when we traded Kenny Thomas from Burnaby to the Burrards, which we weren't real happy about. He was a good friend of ours and on the team, and he ran around in warm up his first game with the Burrards when he was playing us in Burnaby with his Cleveland Browns toque on, and he put a decimal, so instead of being number 40, he was 0.40 for blood alcohol rating, and ran around like that in warm up. That was probably the funniest.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. And you guys are, pretty close to kind of all the same age, but different regions and kind of different eras a little bit. Derek, who was a guy that, I know Jim Bishop, a big influence on you, but a player maybe from your region that you really looked up to on your way up?
Can I tell you a funny story or so about what happened on the bench time? Coaching.
Absolutely.
You will remember this, actually. It was the 2001 championship game at the Air Canada Centre, our first year at the Air Canada Centre. And we were playing Philly, and they ended up beating us. And it was late in the game. We were down by 2, and Chris Gill scored with, I think, 3 seconds to go to bring us within 1. And Eddie Camo was the offensive coach. I coached the back door, and of course Les Bartley was the head coach. And Rod Squire, who was one of our D guys from Six Nations, real quiet guy, he said it fairly loud, so most of the guys could hear it. He said, because Eddie was always known for his X's and O's and his plays and everything. I said, I wonder if Eddie's got to play for this. 3 seconds to go down.
Did he?
The whole bench cracked up and we lost, and that was it was pretty funny. Any player that because I grew up in that era in the 60s with the Gales winning all those, I really liked Gaylord Palace a lot. He was incredible, and Johnny Davis and Jim Hicks, guy from Huntsville, who was a big part of all those championships as well, a guy that I kind of
tell me about Gaylord, because there's a guy that you hear so much about, and not only in the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame, but the Hall of Fame in Canada as well, and just a highly decorated player. But I never got a chance to see him play. I think Wayne Gretzky calls him the best player that he's ever seen. Tell me about Gaylord and what made him so special.
He just could do it all, and like a lot of guys could from that era, actually. But he just had incredible stick skills with the wood sticks, and he used a 46-inch long stick. He played incredible defense, took face-offs, just a really good all-around player. And Jimmy Hicks from Huntsville is a little bit like that as well, but just not as skilled. But yeah, Gaylord, one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time.
Yeah, you put him right up there, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Russ, how about you?
Sorry, I was thinking about funny stories from lacrosse going back to, and Jammer just jarred my memory there.
Yeah,
it was 1999, and we had a really bad travel day. The Western guys, we had to get up really early. We flew into Toronto, and we had 3 hours sleep, and then there was snow and stuff that day, so we got routed through Cincinnati, all over the place. We got to Baltimore just in time to go straight to the arena. No one's ate, and we got beat 20-10. We're sitting in the dressing room afterwards. Everyone's pretty somber, and Terry Bolin walks in. It was his job to check Gary. Gary scored 10 goals that game. He looks at everybody and says, I don't know what your guys' problem is. I did my job. I held him to 10. And then Patty Campbell, one of our goalies, Gary Gate didn't beat us today. He only tied us. It was 20-10. He had 10. It's like,
how important were those kind of guys in the locker room? I know I was a guy that, after a loss, don't talk to me for 3 days sort of thing. But there are the guys that can just file that behind him immediately and kind of lighten the room up. And they were real important, kind of glue guys as well. Terry Bolin being one. Do you remember a guy kind of from your teams, Josh, that was that type of guy?
Oh yeah, tons throughout. Obviously, huge part of the team, guys that can, keep it loose when you're struggling and try to help you get your confidence back when things aren't going so well. So, geez, there'd be a long list that I played with that could keep the room light and have some fun. So, one guy I remember, I didn't play for a while, but Ted Dowling could have some fun. And some stuff when I was young in Albany, I remember, and I'm used to the serious side, so usually when I see some guys, acting outside of, the intensity and that of the game, it's kind of funny, but there's plenty that can keep the room loose, especially nowadays. I think it's, coaching, there's a lot of different personalities and guys to keep the room light.
How about Teddy Dowling? You bring up an name, Ted Dowling. I know, everybody kind of in here, I think, probably went up against him over there. That guy could play some lacrosse, eh?
Yeah.
Derek?
Yeah, shoot a ball for sure. Definitely. I just remember from the Albany days, just real good goal scorer. And funny too, some of the stuff he did. So yeah, he kept a light in the room, and he scored a lot in his day.
Yeah, greasy. All right, Herb, back to a player that you looked up to growing up.
Well, that's easy for me. Wayne, lived right down the street from him. He was, you look at for today's standards on size or whatever, how small he was back then, but he didn't seem small back then. He was decent size, but it was just unbelievable what he could do, and obviously all the man cups he won and how good he was. It just, penalty killing, face-offs, shorthanded power play, ragging the ball. There just wasn't anything he couldn't do. So it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and there's like legendary stories of him like being able to score almost like from center.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredible. And there's another guy, like I just, a little bit too young to really appreciate what he did, and being a kid in Coquitlam, I didn't venture into New West a whole lot to go watch games as a youngster, but man, you hear the stories about Wayne Goss and what he did in a Sandbell uniform. Absolutely legendary. Dan Stroup, how about you? Burnaby guy that you looked up to?
In Burnaby on Sunday nights, we'd go down. My parents would take us down every Sunday night. We'd watch the Lakers play, and then Thursday nights was down to New West. We'd watch them play. But back then, the arenas were so full. The kids were just running around chasing balls and playing tag outside. And but it was, I seen Wayne Goss, and I was watching the junior Lakers when they were winning all the Mintos there. But I don't know. I played against the Gates growing up. I mean, you'd always be in awe of what they could do, and then playing with Russ Hurd. I mean, he was amazing too. But and back to the one-liner or the funny guys. That guy can keep a room pretty light. He was pretty funny. Russ.
Yeah,
one-liners.
Yeah, absolutely. I made the mistake of that one night. I'll tell a bit of a funny story. I think we were in Delta one night, and it was preseason. It was an exhibition game, and I think I was with New West. Herbie, you were with Coquitlam, and we you weren't playing that night, and we crossed paths. And then I said, "Oh, Herbie, I say you healthy scratch tonight?" And he looked back at me. He goes, "Still trying to make the team, Jumbo?" And I just thought to myself, like, that's the last time I'm going to try. Russ Hurd before.
Hey, Jay Wolder.
Yeah, there you go. I think the answer is probably going to be pretty predictable here in T. But tell me, is that the guy you really looked up to and wanted to be like when you were growing up?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, my dad and just a lot of the guys on the senior B team the senior team, and but just like he mentioned, the Gates and JT, and just watching. Just being fans of a lot of the top guys, guys I played against, especially in junior, playing against Junior and Doyle, and just all those guys with those high-end stick skills, and just to really appreciate how they do it. So yeah, definitely my dad and the senior teams, but just like Marichuk, all those guys with those nice sticks, I just really appreciated.
And really, I mean, your dad kind of like one of the fiercest competitors. I don't know what the stick skills were like, but I mean, you have that fire inside you, but you really kind of took to the offensive side of things and wanted to be one of the top scorers.
Yeah, obviously he played a bit different game than me, but he, I do remember him telling me, I was younger running the top of the power play, and I was following through on my shot, and he was always trying to get me just to snap it, because when back in the day, if they followed through, they're getting slashed with a wood stick and their arms broken. But I couldn't get any power on my shot, so I had to keep with the follow through. But back in the day, he always had to stop, because he says if you leave your arm exposed, the wood stick's coming on it. So Jammer would know all about that for sure. So.
Yeah.
Tell me about. I'm a big numbers guy, right? That's kind of my thing. Josh, let's stick with you here. I believe Terry wore number 19, and so did you. Is that why? But tell me why he wore 19, if you know.
I actually don't know why he picked 19, but obviously I'm wearing it because of him, and my guys, my kids too, are wearing it because of him. So.
That makes you feel pretty proud, though, right? Like, I mean, kind of following your father's footsteps, and then now Cam and the other boy kind of following in yours. That's got to be a heartwarming feeling. Yeah,
for sure. It was really special. My oldest played a game with the junior A's, so they'd retired 19, and he's obviously allowed to wear it when he plays. So I'm looking forward to that next year.
Awesome. Stroopy, tell me about 88. What's the significance?
Absolutely nothing. I just,
I mean, well, you had it forever though, so I mean, you kept going back to it, so it meant something to you.
Yeah, I guess it just became a habit later. But I had 10, I had 16, then 8, and I thought, oh well, 8's taken, I'll go 88. But there was no reason why I had it. It was
just nothing. You had no rituals, no routines. Don't care about your number. Just give me a stick, and I want to go play.
I just always ask Russ. I say, okay, what are we doing? Where do you want me?
And how about you, Russ? Number 9 hangs in the rafters there in Burnaby. What did the number 9 mean to you?
When I was a kid, I used to like watching Bobby Ball play in hockey, and then watch play. I like watching Big Luthwaite, number 9. So I was already wearing 9 and for hockey, and so just at one point, Jamie Stewart and I we'd go back and forth. One would be 9, one would be 7 for hockey and lacrosse. Then finally, he just switched to 7. I just stayed with 9.
Awesome. And Jammer 15, that was yours. And Ryan started out wearing a different number, but now he's switched to that. What's up with 15?
Yeah, that was the Gaylord influence, but I only wore it in junior and college because this is a funny story actually. When I played in Brooklyn, we had a guy on our team named Billy Down, and he was a veteran, been around a long time. So I wore 44, and then he retired. And Johnny Fusco, he wore 15 in junior playing in Whitby. And so I was promised 15, but of course, over the course of the off season, Johnny was a Brooklyn boy. I mean, from Brooklyn. So the old village of Brooklyn. And I think he backdoored me and he showed up, and I was away at school at the time. I showed up a little late for the start of the season. He had 15 on, and he had this smirk on his face, and that was the end of that. So that's the last time I wore 15 was in junior. But yeah, Ryan's worn it since he was a kid. So
yeah, awesome. Let's talk about pressure, because I think what separates the goods from the greats is the ability to kind of deal with pressure and not only deal with it, but to thrive in it. And I think all the great lacrosse players, I think, have that ability to thrive under pressure. Derek, what types of things did you do or maybe say to yourself, or how did you take on pressure?
I just always prepare myself physically and mentally, and not be concerned too much with the actual moment. I really feel that even as a coach, that if you kind of stress out with your players, if you do all the preparation and in terms of your, how your week goes and your fitness and things that you can do in the off season, that you get into those moments and I think you can handle them a lot better. And it's just a lot of times I just used to think of it as just another game, and it's not easy to do that, but if you can kind of have that attitude, I think it's important. And with not losing the moment either, that they could be big moments, whether it's an NLL final, a 1-game shot, or a game 7 of a big series in our Canadian game. So that's kind of the way I've approached it, and just do your preparation and do everything you can. You get on the floor, then it's anybody's ball game. You just try and work your hardest and play within your system and help your teammates be a good teammate. And I think things typically will work out, but quite often they don't as well.
Yeah, I mean, how about you, Russ? Because I know I was a guy that I'd make a bad play, I'd drop a pass, or I'd miss a check or whatever, and that would just sit with me on the bench until I got another shift, and I didn't know how to cope with that or kind of how to get past that. How did you deal with that sort of stuff? Not that you made a whole lot of mistakes in your 11
Well, I think if you start off not playing a game very well, you think about it no matter who you are, but going to not think about pressure. I think I was one of those guys that whether you're playing Senior A in Langley in front of 7 people at LAC or whether you're sold out Maple Leaf Gardens, once you started playing the game, I blocked everything out. I didn't hear the crowd. I didn't hear anybody. You just, it was like you're playing your game. And at least for me, that's the way it was. So I didn't think pressure, no pressure. I just thought about kind of like what Jammer was saying, you do the preparation, you go out and play, and that's it.
I think that's an interesting thing you just said there, because I think that's the case for a lot of guys. When the whistle goes, the whole thing just kind of shrinks to where it's just the floor and the benches. Like you honestly, you don't see, and some guys don't even hear the crowd. Some guys do, but some guys just narrow their focus so much that that's all they focus on is just what's happening in front of them. What were you like in that regard, Dan? A guy that just doesn't care.
I think I'm like everybody on here. Like everybody here wanted that last shot. They wanted to, or they would have taken it. There was no pressure. They just felt like they were prepared. And every night I went out, I just wanted to do my best. And and whatever that was that night, as long as I worked hard, tried hard, and never gave up, then I think you can hold your head up after a game. But yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's just I think who everyone here is. I think give me the ball. I want to go to net or whatever, right? Or whatever your job was, if that's what you want to do. And I never I never felt pressure. Just always, as long as you worked hard, did your best. I mean, what can you the outcome is going to take care of itself.
Yeah, and I like keep hearing the word preparation. And I think of you when I hear that word, Josh. I remember seeing you in Calgary way back when. I want to say in like 2012 or 2011 or something. And it was like 2:00 in the afternoon, and you were heading to the rink for the game that night at 7:00. And I kind of thought, like, what are you doing right now? And he said, oh, I want to work on my stick a little bit. And you were going in like 5 hours before the game. I think you ended up putting up 10 points that night. But was that a big thing for you to just kind of block out the pressure by being so prepared to play?
Yeah, like they've been saying, preparation. All my pressure came from what I put on myself. I didn't really worry about outside pressure. So, if you have a bad game, I put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure it didn't happen twice in a row. If I went to the rink that early, Jake, is probably because the game before that was pretty bad. So, a lot of pressure on myself to, obviously make sure you're there for your teammates. You don't want to let them down. And, a ton of pressure on myself, but I didn't really feel any coming from anybody else besides what I put on myself.
Here with 4 Hall of Famers, Dan Stroup, Derek Keenan, Russ, Josh Sanderson. My name's Jake Elliott. Thanks so much for spending some time here on your Sunday with us for the lighter side of lacrosse. And I think this year is obviously unique with the pandemic going on and the NLL season getting cut short, and then no summer lacrosse, and still a lot of things up in the air for the upcoming seasons as well. But for lifers like ourselves, guys that played and coached and watched and broadcast and whatever year after year and summer after summer, you sacrifice a lot to give yourself to this game. I'm guessing everybody would do it again in a heartbeat, but just maybe tell me, Dan, like some of the things that you had to sacrifice and give up in order to be the player that you became to be.
I mean, a lot of my friends played growing up, and they were better than I was, but they wanted to be away camping or going to the lake, and obviously it's a summer sport. So and then playing with Burnaby, we were Friday nights in senior, and then moving over to Coquitlam, we were Saturday nights. So we gave up a lot of weekends, and it wasn't so much for me because I love to play. I love to be around the team and love doing it. But I think more for my family. They gave up weekends at the lake or whatever. I mean, they give up a lot more than I did because we get to play. That's what we love to do. So it was, I got to thank them for letting me do it for so long. And I don't feel like I gave up too much because that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, maybe that's the other way around, right, Derek? Maybe it's the people that are around you that made the sacrifice for you.
Yeah, certainly. Especially when you have a young family, and when you're a player. I mean, you were doing it because you love the game, and you didn't even really think a lot about that. And I kind of started my family a little later in life, and so I was pretty much done playing by then, and it became coaching, and then. It was great when I was in Toronto because it was convenient, and my family went. And then, but since 2004, I started traveling to the West, and that's been the same ever since. So that's a lot of sacrifice, especially for them, because you're missing a lot of things. So what you do from there is you try and, when you are home, you do as much as you possibly can with your kids and your family, and in terms of being at games and practices and whatever it might be, whether it's my daughter's hockey or, Ryan's hockey or whatever it might be. You try to do as much as you can and to make up for that, and then have them involved as much as you can as well. Getting them out when we were nearby, whether it was in Toronto or Buffalo or Rochester, you get the family down and things like that. But yeah, certainly a lot of sacrifices for them. Certainly more so than me personally.
Russ, I know, obviously Deb's working with the BCLA now and heavily involved in Burnaby minor lacrosse, and you got yourself a boy that you're getting prepared to coach in junior A. I know you got a chance to actually play a senior B or a senior C game with him a couple of years ago, which must have been just incredible. But a lot of sacrifices in the Hurd family, but I would think now, like with this year and kind of realizing you don't have it this year for the first time in a long time, it really made you appreciate what you are missing.
Yeah, it's like the other guys are saying, for us, we're not really sacrificing a whole lot. Our families, maybe at sometimes were, especially when we were younger growing up, your parents taking you to games and stuff like that. But for us, we're a lacrosse family, and it was really different last year not having any lacrosse. So, we try and get out. My son and I, Ryan, go down the box or grab a field lacrosse net and go to the field and throw the ball around. But, it was a really different year. I mean, it was, obviously a lot of Netflix. Everyone had a lot of time off, and so it was completely different. But year, as you said, Deb's involved in lacrosse. Ryan loves it, and so we're a lacrosse family. So there's no real sacrifices for us to give up anything.
And shoot, I know, you got your boys playing. One's off to Penn State, and you spent time with them coaching them all through minor and Team Ontario and all the rest of it. And your wife's been there standing beside you the entire time, kind of letting you live your dream and carry on the Sanderson legacy. Talk about your family and just everything, all the sacrifices that they've made for your career.
Yeah, exactly like the other guys. I'm the lucky one who gets to play or coach, so, missing the kids' hockey and stuff like that. And like Jammer said, you try to make up for it. My wife works a lot, so she's really passionate about her work. So lucky for me, we're a lacrosse family too. So again, I get to be with the boys a lot in the summer, but you miss a lot in the winter. And I guess like Stroopy said, you miss that cottage summertime atmosphere, but we didn't know any different growing up, so to speak. So you miss out on some of that stuff, but the kids love lacrosse, and we're definitely a lacrosse family. So it was definitely a different summer, and we definitely miss it.
Yeah, I guess the flip side of that is you miss the boys, you miss the locker room, you miss the pints in the parking lot after the games, or going on a hot summer night to check out some lacrosse. Like, you miss all those sorts of things. So I guess without it, you're making some sacrifices here as well. You mentioned Netflix, Herbie. We got about 10 minutes left here, and everybody's kind of, I know Ontario's major lockdown right now, so everybody's looking for good shows to watch. I've picked up a couple over the last couple of days here. The Wire on Crave. I don't know if you guys have seen that. And I started watching Yellowstone on Prime, which I'm really into right now. Let's go around the horn here. Let's start with you, Shooter. Give me your top 3 binges right now as far as shows or whatever.
I just watched Yellowstone. I like that for sure. What else did I get into there? Basically, a lot right on the first lockdown. So quite a few series through that first lockdown. I'm back into sports a little bit more now, but I did just watch Yellowstone. I've been into some Alaska hunting stuff for some reason, and some of that stuff. Whatever keeps me busy right now, Jake. So,
how about you, Stroopy? What are you binging on lately?
I have 3 daughters and my wife, and I don't get the converter, so I watch the first 5 minutes, and then I'm sleeping.
Stroopy's in the bathroom on his phone, just watching YouTube.
Yeah, no, they. I haven't been. Well, if it like El Chapo or some.
Okay.
Like, I like the 48 Hours and all the detective shows, but I don't get the converter very much. So.
How about you, Russ?
Stroopy's not dating himself much by calling it the converter instead of the remote. We never watched.
Corrected by an older guy. Thanks.
We never watched House of Cards, so we're watching that now. We're rewatching. Yeah, we're rewatching Game of Thrones, and we're watching Your Honor also.
Yeah, oh, that's another one. Your Honor just crushed that one as well. And I've been doing a lot of work on the computer lately, so I put Letterkenny on. I think they're like 20-minute episodes or something. I just like blasted 9 seasons of Letterkenny in like a week or something, which is pretty shameful. But Derek, do you have control of the clicker at home, or does the wife control that sort of thing?
Heavy female influence here as well, but we got lots of TVs. I watched The Wire. I thought that was excellent. I watched The Crown, and there's still more season to come, I think. What was the other one you guys just? Your Honor, we're watching that. So yeah, there's quite a few. You can bring back some old ones too, like Dexter or something like that if you want.
Yeah. How about Tiger Woods documentary on HBO?
I watched it. It was good. Yeah. And then of course the one that came out, like Shooter said in the start of the first lockdown when we were really getting into it, was the Michael Jordan one.
The Last Dance.
That was good too.
Yeah, that was good.
So there's some great suggestions for our viewers tuned in here. What our Hall of Famers are watching here, and what do we got? We got about 5 or 6 minutes left here, so let's see if we can squeeze in a couple of more questions. Real quick around the horn here, guys. Russ, let's start with you. If you think about people who would describe you, what would be the one word people would use to describe you?
Am I allowed to say it on here?
Sure.
It's hard to say. You talking lacrosse wise or life wise?
Give me one of each. How about that?
How about just enjoyed having fun and played the game hard? Okay.
Shooter?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good, Herbie. Lacrosse wise, try to compete hard to help the team win each night, and off the floor I like to keep a little more looser and more dry sense of humor, so a little more happy-go-lucky off the floor than on.
I would concur. Dan Stroup, one word to describe you.
Hard worker. But if you were to ask
that's two.
Skill,
Yeah, hyphenated.
If you were to ask Chris Gill, it would be terrible passer because he was always open, and I never hit him.
Yeah.
But that went both ways too.
Nobody was more open than that guy. Hey, like he was always open.
7-11, yeah.
7-11,
Yeah.
Jammer?
I'd probably say passionate, and then also like off floor parts of life, pretty laid back actually.
Yeah. That's one thing. Like everybody kind of sees the steely, stone-faced Derek Keenan, but they don't really get a taste of Jammer behind the scenes. And you're a real funny guy and a loose guy when you're on a bus or around the hotel. People don't get to see that side of you very often, so that's good. Last one here for you guys, and we really appreciate your time here today. And I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. One guy, and I've been asking this on my podcast lately. By the way, Lacrosse Classified comes out every Tuesday. Wherever you listen to your podcast, you can check out Lax Class. I got to get a shameless plug in there. And I believe, I don't know, we haven't had you on yet, Russ Hurd, so I can't say everybody's been on it. So we'll have to get you on, Herbie. But tell me, and let's start with you, Russ, one guy that you would put into the Canadian Lacrosse Hall of Fame that's not in.
One guy that's not in?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty easy. Shooter, I don't think he's eligible till next year, so he'd be my first guy on my list.
Okay. I think that's a good submission. I think it's a no-brainer. So I don't know if I want to accept it, but I'll let you off the hook on that one. Shooter, who would be your guy?
My cousin Flip. My cousin Flip would be. I played with him all the way up, so he's a guy. He just basically played on all his teams. Even in the pro. So just know how good he is as far as a player and how many teams he's won. So yeah, my cousin Flip.
Yeah, and if not for some injuries that kind of cut his career short, he'd be right up there. Derek Keenan, past, present, You got a guy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably it's eligibility stuff, but I don't think JT and Doyle and those guys are in yet. But I think it's because of eligibility. So,
Yeah.
I would say a guy that I played junior with, he passed away recently, a guy named Kelly Mitchell. If you look at his junior stats, he's one of my best friends, and he made the wise choice of following his actual career rather than pursuing lacrosse, and he moved to Alberta. He moved to Alberta at a very young age, like 22, 23, and started his career in the finance world and had a really, really good senior B career out there. It's just kind of, it's unknown, right? I think he played in 9 or 10 President's Cups. So that guy, I think, is, he was a heck of a player. The most skilled player I've ever seen play the game, actually. But a lot of people wouldn't know it because after junior, you didn't really hear about him.
Yeah, smart decision.
He's a really great guy. He came to Hawaii with us a couple of years. Him and his wife, really nice guy. Good player.
Another Masters legend, right, Herbie?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Panel to paradise one of these upcoming years. Dan, I left you for last because I know you probably struggle the most trying to come up with a name here. So last word goes to you. Who would be your one guy to put into the Hall?
Wow. There's so many, but Doyle, obviously Josh will be there, Sean Williams, could go on and on, but JT, all those guys. There's so many amazing players, and I was lucky to play with them or against them, and for sure they'll be there.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as the eligibility comes up, they're all going in. You guys are fantastic. Congratulations on just outstanding careers, each and every one of you. And thanks again, especially for doubling down here and making time on a second Sunday. And enjoyed this a lot. Appreciate it. And hopefully everybody else did as well.
Sure did.
Thanks, Lemo.
Thanks, Jake.
Good job.
Good seeing everybody. Thanks for having me, Jake.
Hey, guys.
All right, there you go.
Thank you, guys.
Hall of Famer Dan